Hey, welcome back. This is Shah. I saw a clip from the Whatever podcast, and it has Officer Tatum basically discussing with Brian why he doesn't want to get married. And it's interesting to me because, Officer Tatum is like a Tradcon, and Brian definitely represents a little bit more of this new modern man thinking of not wanting to sign the state paperwork. So let's go and watch their discussion.
But no, I don't know. Honestly, well, you probably don't want to know my take on marriage. So that's probably the other thing.
For you saying that, meaning that I think you're not favorable to marriage.
Oh.
Because of the risk factors.
Yeah, and look, I don't have anything wrong from when it comes to marriage from a religious perspective. I'm not like fervently like anti-marriage in the sense that I'm openly like I try to think I'm a pretty reasonable person, but I'm not like antagonistic with it. I've looked at the risk factors like you said, and me personally, I don't want to get married. That I think could be for some women kind of I don't know. Now but here's the thing, like I could have a long-term monogamous relationship with a woman, life partner.
No, but you always have an out. You always have an out. You don't have to make an ultimate commitment. You don't.
Yeah, that's the thing. Without marriage, like
people get divorced all the time, though.
Go.
You can.
What is it?
So in marriage, you can just go too. You just financially fuck
but
yourself in the process.
Some money.
Right.
But you get.
See, I don't like Officer Tatum's answer there because he's like, well, then you're not fully committing because you can always go. But if Brian's going to get married to someone and he's the one who's investing the most money in the relationship and putting his, whole self in it, Officer Tatum doesn't address the fact that nowadays the marriage laws allow women to always go and profit and really be the beneficiary from that deal being broken. So he's kind of looking at marriage from a completely different perspective, almost like it's a at fault time. He's not taking into account the new laws.
Married to stay.
Yeah,
really?
So
That's how marriage works?
Lasts forever.
Don't you think you're limiting your pool? Get married. You're limiting your
isn't-
pool because you're not. I mean, most women, it sounds like you want a self-respecting woman, like high value, all these things. Don't you think most of those women would want to be married? Mm-hmm. So you're limiting.
I
your
want
pool.
a woman who realizes. I want a woman who realizes that in this current social climate, in this in this social climate, when it comes to the court system, we don't need to get the state involved in our relationship.
But the truth
I
is
love you, you love me. We don't need the state.
I agree.
Like the truly
I
feminine
I agree.
would want, like the nature of femininity would want that protection.
The nature.
See, that is such a BS argument. The nature of femininity would want that argument. It's basically saying like my money is my money and your money is our money. And by virtue of me being a woman and by you being a man, even though we live in this, feminist world where the laws have completely changed, women can be just as productive as men and bring just as much to the table financially. But since you're a man, since Brian's a man, you're still expected to be the one making so much money and providing so much that it makes the woman feel safe so she can be feminine. That's such a cop-out, especially when you do that, you have the sword of Damocles over your head that can fall on you at any time, and he can get screwed over, which is exactly why Brian doesn't want to get married.
I feel like you want a feminine girl.
I do like feminine women, but I don't need. I'm protecting us from the state, babe.
Yeah.
See, that's the undercover Tradcon. Men aren't looking for the blue-haired feminist who is just over the top with it and thinking, oh, we're going to get married to her, and if I get divorced, like, they're going to be surprised. That's not who they're worried about. Men have a problem with this woman who espouse all this stuff, and then they get married, and then like 5, 6 years in, 10 years in, even 20 years in, she suddenly becomes a feminist. All of a sudden, she's not wearing red no more, she's wearing blue. And she's out of there, and all of a sudden she's a different person. It's such a cop-out. She's an undercover feminist.
That's very true.
I'll tell you this, as a married man, that one of the greatest things I ever did in my life was get married. I have been more productive. I've had more peace. I mean, it is the greatest decision a man can ever make. It's the biggest and greatest investment that you make in the rest of your life. Now, if you're a man with integrity and you're ready and you do your homework and you're willing to pursue even when it gets tough, you get married and you make a commitment for life. Me and my wife are committed for life. Us getting a divorce is not in the equation.
He's not acknowledging a lot of things, a lot of changes, especially from at fault to no fault divorce. He's committed for life. And the way the laws are oriented really give him an incentive to be committed for life. But his wife might be committed to him from a spiritual standpoint, but legally speaking, she's able to walk away very easily. In fact, she's almost incentivized to do that.
I think because both of us are both mature enough and willing to work through it. It's not perfect. Sometimes we argue, sometimes she get on my nerves. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you don't quit and give up because she got on my nerves one day. We made a commitment before God. We made a commitment and it's on record. And it wouldn't behoove me to not put my best effort into it because I got a lot on the line. When you have skin in the game, you're more willing to do more in a relationship than you are if you don't have skin in the game and you could just walk away at any time.
He almost makes the argument for me. Officer Tatum has skin in the game, especially if he's, this rich YouTuber and he's married to this lady. He has skin in the game. He is kind of projecting his own situation even onto his wife. He has all the incentive in the world to stay committed because he's arguing that it's good that it's going to be hard to leave because there's more commitment. What he's not acknowledging is that same level of skin in the game is not there for his wife. If his wife leaves, she's going to leave and come out of it with a lot more versus him, or if he decides to leave, he loses a lot more.
But given how frequently there's divorce, it's not clear to me that marriage precludes people from, because divorce exists.
Well, you need to look at divorce in segmentation, right? What people are you talking about? Are you talking about people who come together that are equally yoked? Are you talking about people who are Christians? Are you talking about people who get married young? Are you talking about people who get married old? People getting married with children involved? Yeah, there's so many different variations that may not even pertain to somebody like you. Sure. You may not be in the realm of the divorce. There's a lot of people that get divorced for a lot of reasons. That may not be your reason.
He's trying to argue that if you guys are both really religious, there's a less chance of a divorce, and that the statistics are brought up all together from all these different elements in society who are probably already predisposed to getting divorced for other reasons. But it is an argument that's already been debunked. If you guys watch Better Bachelor, Joker put out a tweet that pretty much debunks this, because he shows that 74% of marriage are from people who identify as Christian. The data then goes even further and goes into like how many times a month or a year those people go to church, or how they would rate how much they identify and how religious they are. And most of these people getting married are people who identify as religious, as moderately religious, and even more religious, and going to church regularly. And it's still a huge chunk, a lion's share of the people who are getting divorced. So here's the statistics that Joker put up from Better Bachelor. And it says religious composition of divorced or separated adults. And 74% of them are Christian. And that's not to say one religion is more predisposed to divorce than the other. That's because the majority population of religious people in the U.S. just happen to be Christian. But what we're looking at here is people overall who get divorced. It's not like, religious people only make up like 20% of divorces or something. Religious people make up a lion's share of divorces that are happening.
I think I'm the guy, to be honest, I've thought about this, and this is kind of, I don't know if this is almost like morbidly sad or whatever. I feel like if I were to get married, I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of the dude that gets divorced. I'm the type of dude, I'm just, look, and it's like brutal self-assessment and self-reflection. I just feel as if, like, not all of us can be Brandon Tatum. Like, you're like, 'cause I'm kind of like the class clown guy. You're like, you're masculine, you're tall. I mean, how tall are you?
6'2".
6'2", okay, I'm 6'1". So
honestly, not going so far. My parents
Officer Tatum has that persona, that look. He's like an alpha male. Or Brian's basically saying, I'm not an alpha male, right? And because of that, he feels his ability to prevent a divorce is going to be a lot less than someone like Officer Tatum.
Been in a relationship for 45 years. They just got married this year with 3 kids, and they have never like divorced. Well, not divorced because they can't, but they were together. So I agree, like you don't have to get married, but I don't know if you marry someone.
I just have this like this. What's that? Have you seen Minority Report with Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
What was it called? The things that could see the future, premonitions.
Yeah.
I have a premonition. If I were to get married, she's divorcing me. I don't know. I'm just gonna get divorced.
This is
you.
yeah.
Oh yeah, no, she divorces me.
Oh.
Yeah,
That's how
because
it is. Women divorce
the
men.
reason that you
I don't know how this woman in red is so surprised. I mean, we know it's women overwhelmingly who initiate the divorce process. I don't know why she's so surprised about that.
doing this, the reason
No, I'm not going to divorce. I would never divorce.
the reason that you feel this way is because of the things that you read and self-talk.
Yeah.
Because
No, I mean, it's the overwhelming statistical evidence that we have. It's not just self-talk. Like, yeah, I mean, he's looking at it. This is the stuff he deals with on his show and all that kind of thing. But it's not like he's creating this world where that happens, you know, like something that happens a very small sliver of time happens to everybody. I mean, this really does happen to a lot of people. We know this.
if you tell yourself this all the time, or you had negative experiences with women and you carry that on, you're gonna believe that in every relationship. What you have to do is that you have to start telling yourself a different story.
Stay positive.
You have to start telling yourself, I'm going to be married, I'm going to stay married, and you have to start looking forward to the woman that you're going to marry. Before I got married to my wife, every day, and people probably think I'm crazy, but I don't care, I manifested it. And the reason and how I manifested, because when I would fly on an airplane by myself, I would envision me and my wife traveling together. I would already think about what me and my wife are going to do.
You wanted
our
it.
children. And if you want it and you see it, you believe it in your heart, you pursue it, then you will pursue it with an open mind, and you'll pursue it with the idea that this is going to work for me. Women, like you say all the things about yourself, there's some women that love all of that.
He is talking about getting into a marriage, which is going to be, frankly, a lot easier to do than preventing a divorce. You know, he's like, well, I wanted it, and I wanted to go in there with the mindset of not, you know, like, oh, I'm going to do this and be committed. But it's like, dude, there's 2 people in this. There's 2 people. It's not just about you. It's also about the wife. And statistically, the wife is going to leave.
Some women don't like a guy like me. They like a guy like you. They like a guy that's funny, a guy that's a self-starter. You know, all of the things that you have that are qualities, there's women out here that like that. If you were a nerdy guy with glasses on and you were geeky and you were into tech, some woman out there loved that guy.
Brian didn't say he can't find a woman to get married. Brian can find a woman to get married probably tomorrow, especially because of who he is. Officer Tatum is just giving him advice on how to get in the marriage. What Brian is talking about is how to prevent the marriage from falling apart, which is statistically likely to happen, and when it does, the laws are going to be overwhelmingly against him.
I feel like that guy's more likely to get divorced than a guy like you.
No,
though.
that's not true. That's
Like,
not true.
I don't know. Like,
That's not true, because love is love, man. Some people love people that they resonate with.
also, I feel like, man, I really shouldn't have brought the conversation there of my own self-assessment of like, and perhaps I'm being a bit hyperbolic there. Like, is it plausible that I could marry a girl and not get divorced? Of course. I want to try to redirect my argumentation on this a little bit, though. When it comes to marriage, what, from the societal point of view, because there's often a talk about, and I 100% agree with this.
Listen, just before we go on, what Brian is missing here is he needs to get on the Tradcons. He needs to get on a person like Officer Tatum. He needs to start getting on Candace Owens, on Michael Knowles, and asking, why aren't you guys advocating for marriage reform? Why are you guys happy with trying to convince guys based off a faith-based and a hope-based strategy of not being afraid of getting divorced? Why aren't they using their platforms to talk about reforming marriage to put some responsibility on on the woman, on the person. I don't even want to say woman, but some responsibility on who's doing the feminine role. For all we know, it could be like a Britney Spears situation. Maybe the woman's a pharmacist and the guy works at the county and makes $65,000 a year, and she's the one who gets screwed over. Let's just call that the masculine and feminine role. But what Brian needs to be doing is he needs to be calling out Officer Tatum and saying, why aren't you advocating for marriage reform? Why aren't you helping? We know that the marriage laws are against the masculine provider. Why aren't you making it so that there's skin in the game like when there was at-fault divorce? Why aren't we trying to make something new that makes both parties incentivized to stay for the long term? But he's just not asking him that. Like, he's not getting on him like that, which is what he should be getting on him. He should be getting on Candace Owens, on Michael Knowles.
The nuclear family, very important. It's the best way to raise children. But let's say if we were comparing a married couple to a non-married couple that's monogamous, that stays together for life and has children, on a societal impact level, I don't see the difference. Like, what benefit from a societal aspect does there to me there's no difference. And then on a relationship level, I don't really see the difference between I'm going to stay with this woman for the rest of my life partner, we're going to have kids, it's going to be monogamous, there's not going to be infidelity. I don't see the difference.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Let him answer.
Actually, the reason why I put such high value on marriage is because of what I saw growing up with my mother and father, and how my father played. It was patriarchal. My mom stayed home.
Based? Wait.
It was patriarchal based. Yeah.
No. Like
patriarchy based.
I was based. Like, okay.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Man, I really wish Officer Tatum would answer that question. But just to address what she's saying, I mean, people watch their parents do this and it worked, but I don't know how old that lady is or how old her parents are, but we got to acknowledge that the laws that especially like the boomer generation was under was different for a long time up until like the late 60s and early 70s, and even then it was only new no-fault divorce in California. But of course they saw their parents and it really worked for their parents, especially your grandparents. You're like, how did our grandparents stayed together? And then when things got tough, they toughed it out. They were committed to each other. But the part we're missing here is that the courts wouldn't let them get a divorce in the first place, which is why they are together. So people look back at their parents and they're like, they did it and it was good. But it's like, yeah, the freaking laws really help reinforce keeping that family unit together, where now it's been completely reformed into something that's egregious, and it incentivizes the disintegration of the nuclear family unit. And this is why I want to hear the Tradcon, Officer Tatum, who just conspicuously had to take a piss right at this moment.
Yeah, got it. And now growing up, that's what I want from my particular family, and I think that
you want a patriarchal structure.
Yeah.
What does that have to do with the paperwork?
Cool, you don't need a marriage for that.
Thank you.
I think I do, because
maybe you do, but I'm saying I fail to see what the difference between a marriage and a committed monogamous life partner. Like,
that could also have a spiritual marriage done over it without the involvement of the state.
What is the difference aside from observing a traditional thing?
Because I want my children to see that we made a commitment through church, because I want to make sure.
Oh, so it's a religious component.
It's a religious component.
Remove religion from it, because again, when it comes to marriage, that's not just a religious thing. No. It's also the state's involvement.
I agree that the state is involved.
Because atheist people or a-religious people or agnostic people can also get married.
Yes, I know that. But I think that for me, God played a really central role in my upbringing, and I want my kids to be the same. And I think that a house that has God in it has less
He needs to just ask her, would you be okay with getting a spiritual marriage but not signing the marriage license?
Discussion, has less arguments, less. So that's why.
Please, Brian, ask her.
You can even not be married and still be religious. Like, you could be a Christian and be teaching your children Christian values and even then not get married.
Well, no, but I mean, it's specifically.
Yes, I understand marriage is like yes, I get that. But
socially, I don't know. I mean, I think some people, there's some like, people talk about taxes. I cannot give you an argument for why you should get married outside of the religious motivation.
Oh, okay. Then just
I mean, fair. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't know that I'm not the voice of God.
I think it's really romantic.
You know, I stumbled upon recently, I was trying to find out, will a church marry a couple without requiring them to sign the marriage license? And for the most part, it seems that a church isn't likely to do it unless the people involved the state with the religion. And I tried to find a couple sources on that. It is mixed. I'm sure there's churches out there that will do it, though I don't know of any. If you do, please let me know. But it appears for the most part, as part of the process of getting married, at least for, I'm just using Christianity here because that's the majority religion. It appears a church will not officiate it unless you have the marriage license. All right, let's get back to this, and let's try to see if Officer Tatum gets back in and answers this question.
But
it's really romantic. Hold on, let me just respond to that.
Okay.
Yes, it's really romantic that you can make this commitment in front of all your friends and family, and it's also very pathetic when that commitment means nothing when your wife goes and sees a divorce attorney and you end up getting divorced and all your friends are like, wow, I was there to witness the vows that you said. I was there to see the words come out of your mouth. Till death do us part. Your words mean nothing. Good day, sir.
But why would I care about what anyone else? Me and my partner.
God, this woman does not know what she's saying. Let's forward it to Officer Tatum.
You say, what is the benefit if it goes well? It's the greatest thing that you can ever do as a man.
He still hasn't answered the question.
Is to be married to one woman. It's incredibly important for a man to be stable, for a man to have to not focus on all of this other stuff. As a single man, it's very difficult. I remember when I was single, it was difficult, man. Is this woman eligible? This woman, I got to go on a date. I got to spend all this money because I'm paying for the dates. And so with my wife, it's just way different. I came out here.
He has completely just missed what the talking point's about. He's missed the question. I mean, he's just talking about how great it is. Yes, we know that. We agree with you on that. Answer Brian's question.
I'm going to the hotel, I'm going to eat breakfast, and I'm going home to my wife. I don't have to play no games. We ain't got to text back and forth. We don't need to do none. I mean, when I say text back and forth.
How does this prevent her from leaving you because the laws enable it, Officer Tatum?
Meaning that, does she still like me? Do we like each other? It has created such an incredible value in my life. It's worth the investment. And just like with a contract, nobody in here would just go off of words, right? You know, you have to sign a contract even when we came here. There's a contract for certain things.
Sure. Marriage is
right, and you don't want to just go off of somebody's word. That's not enough. Somebody can say they love you, but are they willing to put skin in the game? I told my wife.
See, this part right here where you mentioned skin in the game is the part that I find important. It's like he's almost making our argument for us because we're basically saying that as a male provider role, you're putting all your skin in the game by signing the contract as it exists today with no-fault divorce. However, the other side of that commitment isn't putting skin in the game because they can hit the eject button at any time and you're the one left holding the bag. You know what I mean? And Officer Tatum isn't addressing that.
I love her and I want to be with her for the rest of my life. Okay, that's good. But I proved it to her by changing her last name. We're in a document that we're committed to. And also I made a vow before God. I'm telling her, I'm not just saying this, I'm willing to go all the way with it because that's what it takes to make a sure commitment. And I think that when you do that, you never look back in the what ifs. You will die doing what ifs.
I mean, you know, okay, he's talking about the commitments he made, but he's just not addressing what she did to prove it to him.
What if I started the podcast and it didn't succeed? Right? There's a possibility the podcast could not succeed and you could be out here just in debt and crying yourself to sleep every night. But the benefit of it actually succeeding far outweighs that risk factor in the beginning.
But so, I mean, you mentioned like all these things. You have your wife that you come home to and she's there. But I guess what I'm trying to bring it back to, like, I'm not advocating that men go and live these playboy lifestyles where they just run through women, they just sleep with women casually without any interest in pursuing something more serious or long term. That's not what I want. What I'm saying is that I could perfectly see myself having the things that you have monogamy, long term, potentially children, right? I'm struggling to see when it comes to marriage, because all those things that you kind of listed, I could have a monogamous, long-term, loving relationship with one woman my entire life without getting married.
Show me an example of that. Somebody that you know that has done that successfully.
I
probably have
can't.
one.
I do.
One though.
But let me ask you,
No,
but Brandon,
I have
How many do you have?
Brandon,
There's at least 6 in my family.
Okay,
that
6.
are married.
You got one. Everybody else, how many you know that's just in a monogamous relationship, a committed relationship, and they've been together, faithful to one another for a period of time, a long period of time?
My brother.
One, 6.
My coworkers.
One.
How many?
0.
and
It's funny because the other ones kind of prove him wrong. I mean, a question I'd submit to him is, how many people does he see nowadays able to stay in a marriage? Because, you know, statistically, more than half of people's marriages are ending, and especially for younger people, it's even harder.
0.
So I know a ton of people that's in successful, great marriages, and they're happy. And I also know people that have been divorced.
Absolutely.
But more than likely, the commitment, the investment into it is more important, and I think it means a lot more to two people. You're gonna have a hard time getting a wife that's the one you want, that's okay with the up in the air stuff, because you could just leave her at the drop of a dime. She want to know that you're committed too.
Facts.
And I'm not saying every woman is that way, but when you sign that paper, you got a lot to lose, my man.
I don't understand how he can be so purposefully and willfully ignorant to this. He's like, you know, you can just leave her at a drop of a dime and she's got a lot to lose. But that's quite literally the case for men when they sign a no-fault marriage contract today. It's like, yes, she can just leave you at the drop of a hat, and that's it. You lose, and she gains.
It's less likely
which
for
is
you to walk
exactly
away.
why I shouldn't do it, though.
No, that's why you should do it.
Which is, but you said you have a lot to lose.
So you have skin in the game. You have skin in the game.
But
right?
there's two people going into it. It's a contract. It's like it's a business.
That's a horrible freaking example. I mean, yeah, it used to be like a business. I mean, any business, you have two businesses coming together to do business. They're going to have a contract. And in that contract, stipulated is going to be, if there's a breach of contract, these are the conditions. You know, you're going to forfeit whatever claim you have to the inventory or any of the money or the stocks or this or that or whatever. And if someone breaches the contract, the other company can go to the court and the court will enforce the contract for them. But in marriage, especially no-fault divorce, prior to no-fault divorce, that was the case. Like, yeah, you both have skin in the game. If one of you does something that injures the other party, you know what I mean, and doesn't uphold your end of the contract, you lose. You forfeit the majority, the lion's share of the marital assets, first dibs on the custody, all that kind of stuff. Nowadays, with no-fault divorce, it's not like that. One person loses and the other person is incentivized even to break the contract.
Now you're making it a business, because
but
you might want it to be like that. What if she says that she's like that
We
too,
already
and then
talked-
later?
We
so
already spoke about it.
Are you saying that marriage is two people staying together under threat of a lawsuit from the other?
No.
At
I'm saying
times.
two people stand together out of love and commitment to one another, and they have all of these qualities and benefits even through the government of being married, and
but
they
I
have
can-
their name legally changed. Like,
Sure.
my wife is legally, her last name is Tatum. She is a Tatum. It's not hypothetical. It's not like she put a hyphen on it. She is by law legally. Her driver's license, her passport says Tatum.
It's
She's
less
officially a
easy.
part of my family.
I mean, and in 2 weeks from now, and 3 weeks from now, she can file for divorce, and the judge can change her name back to whatever she wants it to be, and her passport's going to change, and her driver's license is going to change, and she's not going to be part of the Tatum family.
Right.
Officially.
But here's the thing: there are women who will go through all those steps. They'll change their last name. There's the marriage certificate, etc., and divorce still happens. So, here's the thing: I feel like most people, when they get married, hold on.
Alvin Sam donated $99. I'll simplify it. Marriage is designed for traditional breadwinners and not working partners. But the reality is that both parties must be financially independent. So that defeats the purpose of marriage. Marriage is outdated. Abolish it.
You know, that person's right, because what he's basically saying is that the original marriage contract that provided the traditional breadwinner as well as the person who wasn't the breadwinner, that's when marriage made sense. But now with no-fault divorce, the traditional breadwinner is not protected in that marriage contract. So therefore it's become outdated and it's kind of become purposeless. That's why marriage reform is so important, because there needs to be protections for the traditional breadwinner. Of course, none of these guys are going to hear it because they're just drinking the feel-good Kool-Aid too much.
It's a business now.
I don't
my
think
whole
it's a
thing. I mean,
business.
you're a businessman, right? You have a very successful YouTube channel. You're a content creator, and I'm sure, like, you know, I've been doing content creation for 10 years. When you're in the content creation space, you know, you do sponsorships, you're negotiating various contracts. Maybe you have people that work for you. So I'm sure you have to some degree, and maybe you have an attorney, but I feel like we start getting a little adept when it comes to, you know, you've reviewed contracts and stuff. And I mean, as a businessman, you never sign a contract with someone who's rewarded for breaking it. And I feel like in today's day and age, women are rewarded when they break the marriage contract financially.
That's what we're told. It's not just about money. If my wife were to leave me, it's more than money. She'll get some. She has. You got to think.
You're a Giga Chad. Brandon, you're a Giga Chad.
But no, she'll get 50%. Right now, she has 100%. That's a big difference.
Well, sure.
She has 100% right now. She get anything she wants. Anything I have is hers. All of it, 100%. She leaves, she only get 50%, and then she lose the connection. She lose the protection. Who do you think keep her safe? Who do you think makes sure she got a roof over her head?
Let's go.
I mean, okay, you know, it sounds very all nice and Hallmark and all that kind of stuff, but you know, he's not the only guy out there, and so many women will leave for another man and someone else and this and that, and he's forfeiting all authority or anything he has in order to whatever she wants. You know, like, she can have anything she wants. She has 100% of it. All of my money is your money. When it comes time where if his wife is being unruly and he tries to put his foot down, all she has to do is just run down to the courthouse, get a no-fault divorce, and it's over for him. And it sounds nice. That's where he's deriving what he's doing for her, but it's not like she can't find these things elsewhere or support herself in this day and age if she wanted to. But if she leaves, it's going to be painful for him.
Right here.
Who do you think is making sure that they got food? She ain't got to worry about nothing. And I know that it's not everybody, but ain't nobody going to leave that. That's a net negative.
That's not true. Statistically, we know a lot of people leave that.
For her to leave me just to get money, it's not all about the money.
But would you also acknowledge that in today's day and age, with the economy as it is, most couples, they're probably not in the same situation as you. You're obviously incredibly successful. I would say, though, isn't it the case for most people, they need to rely on two incomes, right? So
I think that most people decide to live that way. I don't think they have to. I think people want to have two cars and they want to have all the expensive stuff.
Lifestyle creep.
I think that lifestyle, you can make your lifestyle conducive for the woman to stay at home and the man to go to work. Hey, brother, get out there and work two jobs. Maybe work a night shift.
Yeah.
You know, bring home the money and the wife take care of the kids. Y'all don't have kids. It's okay for both of y'all to work if that's what you want.
Sure.
But people cannot make the excuse to say we just can't do it because of the modern economy.
Sounds a little bit more feel good to me. Like, I mean, I see what he's saying. Maybe it's possible, but like, work two jobs, work a night shift, work in the daytime. I think he's kind of forgot what it's like to not have a lot of money.
You can make it happen if you live within your means. And I think if that's what you want, you could do it.
Gotcha. We're gonna move.
You know, overall, I'm glad Brian brought up the question, because I feel like, you know, typically there's a lot of Tradcons that go on a show and they get on the 304s or whatever, and it's usually funny and they kind of berate the OnlyFans women or whatever it is, but there's not usually a lot of pushback from Brian on the Tradcons, whether it was Candace Owens or, you know, whoever, Chase, or all these people he has on the show. And it's not often that they talk about why he doesn't want to get married, because him not wanting to get married is just in such opposition to what the Tradcon believes, which is why I really found this interesting. But I really feel like Officer Tatum's answers to those questions were just inadequate. And I kind of wished Brian was a little bit more well-versed in family law so he could have pressed back a little bit harder. Like, I think if he had like a real men's rights activist on there, someone that actually understands the law, it would have been a lot more interesting conversation. Like, if someone just point blank asked Officer Tatum, like, do you know the difference between the marriage laws from, let's say, 1965 to like 1997? Like, do you know what the difference between the laws are in that period of time? Part of me thinks he wouldn't know the answer. And if he doesn't know the answer, then everything he's saying in regards to why it's such a benefit for Brian to get married instead of just having a long-term monogamous relationship, which is, essentially all the same stuff of a marriage, but without the state contract. Whatever Officer Tatum is saying for why he should sign the state contract is just inadequate, because I don't think Officer Tatum actually even knows what the state contract entails, which is sad, because from his answers here, he doesn't demonstrate knowledge of it. And if he doesn't have knowledge of it, then he shouldn't be talking about it, to be honest. And he never really directly answered, Brian's questions. I guess he did a little bit, but it's just more the spiritual religious aspect. Like, he didn't really answer the question of why you can't just do that in a religious sense, but then avoid the state contract, which I wish he would have. I hope whatever podcast gets someone that's really knowledgeable on that kind of stuff and pits them against the Tradcon, because I think that'd be a great debate. Anyways, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We'll see you on the next one.